Secretary of State for Fisheries, Mr. Jose Olenario, President Jose Maria Costa, Captain Lomba, the authorities that are here, and many other friends who are very close to the fishing industry and to the Gil Eannes. We have here sitting besides my charming wife, Captain Victorino Rameliera, whose father was the captain for many years of this ship. And not far behind is the captain, the son of the captain of another captain of Gil Eannes, Mario Esteves from Nazaré. And I would like to space and two special friends to Captain Olmare, to David, Juan David, and to another owner of associated with Vienna, and the last owner of the Santa Maria Manuela, when she was a fishing ship. Antonio Ribao is somewhere in this audience. This is all associated to, and there are many other friends that are here that I cannot mention, and I probably have forgotten some, but I apologize, there are too many. We find that we always talk between the Portuguese and of Terra Nova with codfish. But there's also one other man who is sitting here who represents another part of the great history that exists between our two countries, because Newfoundland was only a British colony until 1949, and for about 300 years, another very great aspect of this connection between Portugal and was the Vinho de Porto. And we have Antonio Bagalhas, who is here with his wife, and he represents, he is the director of the Taylor and Flatgate, which now owns a company called Newman's, which used to ship from Portugal to Newfoundland barrels of port that would be aged across the Atlantic, be aged and be sent back to England, where it had a very superior taste. So these are the two great connections between this. My wife and I are very honored to be here on the 20th anniversary of the Gil Eannes, which gave us the opportunity, and we thank you, President, to have published this book, which is very close to my heart. The history should not be forgotten of these men. When you see the valiant men and what they did, it needs to be remembered forever and forever, because future generations would not remember, and these pictures are all, as we say, worth 1,000 words. The connections with St. John's started back in the very early ages of colonization, and then more or less stopped, to be renewed back in the latter part of the 1880s when the Ben Sauds and a few others came, but there was a restriction on the number of ships that could fish. I'm speaking and I'm not being translating. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like sorry. I will stop. My apologies. Once I start.
Ok, portanto, o Sr. João Pierre primeiro agradeceu às pessoas que estão presentes na mesa, a alguns amigos especiais, às pessoas ligadas à pesca e também ao presidente da Taylor, Craig. Sim, agora que é Newman, sim. E depois começou a falar que é necessário e muito importante preservarmos a história dos Gil Eannes e, portanto, da pesca de bacalhau. As imagens, uma fotografia vale mais do que 1000 palavras, e a intenção dele é essa, é mesmo preservar para passar para próximas gerações. Isto é um pouco resumo, porque ele falou tudo assim muito seguido. I just made a resume of what you just said. Okay. Because
Okay. You speak slowly, we understand everything. Okay. Speak slowly.
I'm used to speaking quite often, and I speak quite fast. I will try to slow, and just by not using any
your accent is perfect.
by not using any notes, I see that one of the forgive me that I have not mentioned the president of the SOS Association. I have not mentioned another very important guest here today, who is the head of the Fisheries Association of Spain, Senor Moniz. And Aurora, who is in the back there, who is from the Ilha Praia da Âncora, who also plays a very great part.
Ele pediu desculpa por ter esquecido do presidente da Associação Gil Eannes, a senhora Dona Aurora, que está ali no fundo da Vila Praia da Âncora, e o senhor presidente, peço desculpa. Senhor Muniz, peço desculpa.
So, besides port, and our fishing industry, which started back in the 1500s and to be stopped and restarted in the 1800s, these were ships of sailing vessels that did not come in very often to Newfoundland because they stayed outside. With their wind power, it was not very difficult. It was very difficult for them to move.
Okay. Portanto, a pesca do bacalhau foi praticada até o 15º século e depois parou até ser retomada nos anos 1800. Na altura não ia muito para a Terra Nova porque os navios não estavam muito preparados e não tinham muita força por causa do vento.
The ships of the Ben Saud group from the Azores had an accidental call during the Second World War in North Sydney, which was a port very much frequented also by the Gil Eannes, where they went to pick up a magical bait. It was mackerel from Nova Scotia.
Durante a Segunda Guerra Mundial, o navio de Ben Saud dos Açores sofreu um acidente grave e parou e também estava num dos portos que os gilenos paravam bastante.
And when the war ended, when the hostilities were finished, the ships continued, and all the ships started to go, some to North Sydney, where they would get the mackerel, and others would go to St. John's, where they would get the lulas.
Okay, at the end of the Second World War, I was saying correctly, right?
À la fin da Segunda Guerra Mundial.
Os navios começaram a viajar para Sydney para pescar o macro e depois para guarda to fish the lulas.
Lulas.
Yes, what? Era meter o isco para pescar as lulas. Exatamente, era isso. Exatamente. Não sei muito pescar. Portanto, eles puxavam as lulas que utilizavam como isco para pescar nas terras de St. John's.
Amongst all of these trips going back and forth to either North Sydney and St. John's, where they came massively, the ships, especially during the hurricane season, the great lady, white lady of the fleet, Gil Eannes, was always present, was always in St. John's, at the center of excellence, where if anyone was invited for dinner on board, it was a major occasion.
Durante as constantes viagens de Sydney e St. John's, ocorreram bastantes hurricanes, tempestades, furacões, exatamente, e teve sempre presente a senhora Great Lady, a senhora o anjo dos Gil Eannes.
The great remembrance of the Gil Eannes in St. John's, there are two things that are remembered by the local population. Is the arrival on May 1955 of this wonderful vessel carrying the Lady of Fatima. We will comment there are a few pictures there showing this event, but this was a major event in the life. And the other major things that everybody remembers are the Portuguese fishermen playing football on the waterfront, jumping into the harbor to pick up the ball, and this was, if anyone in St. John's of a certain age will remember these facts of the Eannes coming in
Há duas grandes memórias que as pessoas locais, as populações locais em St. John's não se esqueceram. Uma foi a chegada em maio de 1955 da imagem de Nossa Senhora de Fátima, e a segunda foi ver os portugueses a jogarem futebol e a saltar dentro da água no Porto para apanhar a bola, que era algo surpreendente para as populações locais de St. John, nunca tinham visto.
Another thing that I've just recently discovered of a similar nature as of the arrival of the Lady of Fatima was the arrival of the Senora de Boaviagen by the old Gil Eannes in Gloucester, Massachusetts in 1948. This is something that generally is not very well known, but I was, through an old newspaper article, I was able to find not so long ago that this, and there are beautiful pictures of this event, which will be preserved again, and all in Gloucester where they brought this, and then they brought the ambassador, the well-known ambassador of Portugal, who had been the ambassador to Spain during the Second World War, Teotonio Pereira, which came to visit like a king on a state visit, where he was so welcomed to Newfoundland back by the authorities in 1948. After the Gil Eannes had delivered the Lady of Fatima, he came down, they made a visit on the banks, and so this is another great historical fact that we have to develop in the future.
Evento histórico que ele só descobriu há pouco tempo foi também em 1948, quando foi também levada a imagem de Nossa Senhora da Boa Viagem a Gloucester, em Massachusetts, e também estava lá presente António Pereira, de Spanish, Pereira. António Pereira was the
ambassador of Portugal in Spain during the war. Then he became ambassador to Brazil for a short time, and then ambassador to the United States, where he welcomed us.
Em vários locais, sim. Embaixador de Portugal em Espanha, nos Estados Unidos.
I don't want to be too long, because this translation, you'll be tired, and everybody will be tired of too many languages, but whatever has been written in this book carries my name. But I should put out and tell you that without the great assistance of this gentleman here, Captain David Marcus, and Rui Bella, Captain Valdemar, and Captain Ramalliera, and many others, this book would not exist. What I have put down, I have written with my heart, because I love the fishermen, I love everything about it, and I particularly love the Portuguese. Even though, Muniz, I have more contact, and I'm telling you the truth. A short mention, sorry, I keep forgetting.
Portanto, ele quer dizer que a obra, apesar de ter o nome dele escrito, esta obra não poderia ter sido escrita sem a grande assistência que ele teve. Portanto, daqui do Sr. Capitão João de Vilmar, Rui Bela, esse conheço, Capitão Valdemar outra vez, e Rui Bela. De Cabanheiro, eu peço desculpa pelos nomes todos, é a primeira vez que os conheço. E portanto, ele escreveu essa obra do fundo do coração, e ele ama os pescadores e ama os portugueses.
A brief mention was made of a memorial that was put up in St. John's, which a few of us did. Seeing a Portuguese naval officer here, it gives me the opportunity of saying that that memorial was done maybe by us, but had it not been for the Portuguese Navy, it would not be there. Because it was at the demand, or the request, I should say, of one of the commanders that came on their annual fisheries patrol in NAFO, that he sent a message to me saying, I have been defied by some of my colleagues to find the grave of a Portuguese White Fleet fisherman.
Okay. So he says that a memorial which was
Em português, obrigado.
Obrigada. Um memorial que foi erguido em St. John's não foi, portanto, ele participou ativamente, mas não foi ele que originou, portanto, que criou o movimento. Foi um comandante que veio de...
Commander of a Portuguese Navy ship coming for the NAFO.
O comandante do navio português que disse que o tinham desafiado a ele erguer esse memorial, mas que precisava de procurar uma tumba, exatamente, uma sepultura de uma pessoa que estivesse trabalhando nos Gil Eannes, de um membro da tripulação.
This commander, in fact, is also connected a little bit with the fishing, because he presently is the new commander of the Criolla. So it's grace due to him that we found a grave, which the Portuguese Navy was able to do a military reclaim ceremony. And when we had the monument built in Portugal, in Aveiro, it was carried by the Figueira de Foz carried it to St. John's, and today, every time there's a Portuguese naval vessel that comes in, there is a military ceremony to honor the memory of these that have lost their lives in our waters.
So, portanto, o comandante que... Desculpa. O comandante, exatamente, esteve muito ligado à pesca, porque é também agora o comandante da Criolla, e ajudou, portanto, quando se ergueu o monumento em Aveiro, em memória dos pescadores, ele, portanto, foi uma parte ativa.
So, I don't want to say any more. I could say many more things at a very quick speed, but we will keep this for another time. Thank you very much for being so much present here today, and let us all together keep this memory of the fishermen alive for future generations. Thank you very much.
Original. Obrigado.
Okay, but there is more. Thank you.
João, para juntar assim.
A prato from the Empresa de Pesca de Viana.
Pratos da empresa de pesca de Viana.
And last, a clock from the handliner Mar Teresa, of which Captain David's father was the first captain under the name of
Rio Figueiro. O captain nominalmente was captain of him.
Well, this is the clock